Hello, good morning, and welcome to this conversation between myself. I'm Emma Mentel. I'm a health practitioner and dietitian, and today I'm going to be talking to Dr. Natasha Lowe. She's a qualified homeopath, and she's a technical advisor and works for Metagenics. We want to discuss all the ins and outs, the whys, the hows, and what to look for in probiotics. And we're going to do our best to record this in a few short clips that's bite-sized, digestible, for you to look at and consider when you as a buyer or a patient or a client goes out to go and find a probiotic that is suitable for you. So Natasha, I'm going to hand over to you just to introduce yourself. And the first question we are going to be looking at is, what is a probiotic? I think there's such a minefield of information, misinformation, confusing information about this topic. So I really look forward to clarifying all these questions with you today.
Thank you for having me, Emma. It's always nice to chat to you. So thank you. Yes, for people listening, I am a qualified homeopath. I've also have about a decade's worth of practice experience in my own practice, but have been working for Medicine Scio for the last 14 years, really getting involved in supporting practitioners such as yourself, bringing functional medicine to the shores of South Africa and giving patients more options in terms of how to manage their health. So I don't know if you want me to delve straight into that answer. What are probiotics? I think, yes, people typically delegate probiotics to something that is prescribed as an adjunct when they're on an antibiotic. But if we just quickly look at the definition, so probiotics are live microorganisms, and these could be bacteria, they could be fungi. And when they are administered in adequate amounts, and if they are able to survive transit in the gut, they are actually able to impart health benefit to your patient. And not health benefit that's necessarily limited to the gut itself, but health benefit that actually extends way beyond the gut. So probiotics are, in my opinion, and I think you will agree, it should be part of the foundation of our approach to not only wellness, but also the management of specific symptoms that patients typically present with.
Great. So, there's been so many clients in my practice who feel that when they're not on a probiotic, on an antibiotic, or when they haven't used antibiotics, why would it be important to consider perhaps something like this as part of their regime or their protocol?
Well, I'll start off by telling those patients, like I've told many of my patients before, that if you had to count the amount of bacteria in your body and compare it to the amount of somatic cells, that we are actually more bug than we are human. And that population of bug, whether it's fungal or whether it's even viral, we have a virome, or whether it's part of the bacterial microbiome, actually comes together and is a huge invisible organ that needs to be supported. And ways we can support that organ is through diet, 100%, stress management, which is something I think that most people probably need assistance with. And then lastly, we can directly influence that organ by taking a probiotic that then not only modifies it in the gut, but modifies it in the entire body. And for the patient who is not necessarily open or understanding of the benefits of probiotics, I mean, we know that the medicine of the future is going to be focused primarily on the microbiome. And we know that when we influence the microbiome, that the sum total of the benefits that we experience is far greater than just the effect in the gut. immune modulation is one of them. I mean, we've just come out of a pandemic. So I would say to the patient who is thinking, well, it's just something that you take when you have an antibiotic, that they're actually missing a huge organ system, and they're not supporting a huge organ system that can literally change their life and the trajectory of their wellness. It's up to them.
Absolutely. So I also, while I was thinking about our conversations today, I thought, immune support is one of those very critically important areas where I would consider, because the gut health and immune health are interlinked. But just two things, and then we can carry on with the next conversation. Two things that I think is important to understand, maybe on a user-friendly technical level. I like to use that term because you and I can get sometimes into big words, and we feel we're familiar with it, so everybody else understands. I love the idea of working with a microbiome, and it's something that's now more mainstream than it was 10 or 15 years ago. But can you just sort of explain to the layperson what is the microbiome and why is it so important as part of the bigger picture?
So typically when we refer to the microbiome, we are referring to the genetic material, the sum total of the genetic material of all the bugs that live on us and in us. So that would include fungi, even beneficial species of candida, for instance, bacteria, and then now we've got the virome. Sometimes the consumer will see the word microbiota. That refers to just the actual microbes themselves. But microbiome is actually talking about the biome, which is the mass, the whole mass, and the genetic material that mass represents. And like I've said before, we have more genetic material in our microbiome than we have in our own cells. So, mapping the human genome was actually easy. We're now in the next phase of medicine where we're mapping the microbiome. And that is a very important organ, if you can put it that way, unseen organ, but the effects are very real for people. So when we start supporting and addressing the microbiome directly, patients, symptoms that they had for many years, that mainstream medicine or allopathic medicine can't necessarily change, begin to change and shift. So it's a very important part of the patient's existence and their health.
Absolutely. And when I try to explain to somebody, why I feel this is such a critical aspect or pillar of their well-being, the microbiome being a whole living organism made up of various different things. And of course, in a community of living organisms, we want the good guys to be in charge. We want the beneficial guys to be in charge. We want them to head up the masses. And sometimes things can disrupt lifestyle or medication or chemotherapy or whatever it is, can disrupt this balance between the beneficial organisms, if I can, simplify it like that, and the harmful organisms. And that is when we experience a disruption in this balance, and where, for me, and it's probably oversimplified, the harmful guys sort of take over. It's like a hostile takeover, where there's just...
Add to that point, exactly what you're just saying now. The patient you just described. I know that patient well that says, well, I haven't really used an antibiotic. It is true that, and science has shown, that after a single application of an antibiotic, it can take the patient's microbiome, the friendly bacteria, a whole year to recover.
Exactly.
So my question would be to that patient, have you ever used an antibiotic? And if you have, you're a candidate. So yes, that's a very important point to raise, there's literally a war, constant war between microbiota that can cause disease if we let them run rampant, and the good guys that actually keep them in check and produce really good things for our body and alter our trajectory in terms of health.
From top to toe, absolutely. Well, I think that was a really inspiring, educational, and interesting first part of our conversation around probiotics and everything else that we would like to share with you. So thank you for that, Natasha, and we'll carry on with this the next part of this topic in our next clip. Thank you so much.
Thank you.